Order, please. Thank you. If we can have your attention. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand, please. Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Steve Barba, would you remain standing, please? We are going to swear in our newest member from Pioneer Town. Okay, Steve, repeat after me. I state your name.
Steve Bardwell,
You solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose or evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, why are you all here tonight? Did nothing to do, right, Judy? All right. Okay. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Sure. Pioneer Town, Steve Bardwell. Yucca Mesa, Tom Ziegert. Landers, Dawn Johnson.
Approved excused absence.
Excused illness. Joshua Tree, Mark Lundquist.
Here.
Flamingo Heights is vacant. Desert Heights, Pat Flanagan. Wonder Valley, Teresa Seitz, excused due to illness. Morongo Valley, Gail Swearet. Copper Mountain Mesa, Mary Helen Tuttle. Here.
All right, adoption agenda. Any discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of November 13th, 2017 minutes.
I move we approve the minutes of
Okay.
November 13, 2017.
Any discussion? None heard. Do I hear the vote, please? All those in favor? Okay, so moved. Okay, memorial adjournments, none. Public safety reports, county fire, Tom Marshall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To be brief tonight, I know you have a busy schedule for the meeting. I do have all of your statistics for your individual areas. If you'd like them, I can send them out to each of you individually. Not a problem there. As a matter of introduction, I'd like to introduce our new battalion chief, which is Donnie Valori. Donnie, if you'll stand up. Donnie comes to us. He was recently a battalion chief in the city of Fontana. He has worked here in the Morongo Basin as an engineer and a captain both in Joshua Tree, Yucca Valley, Yucca Mesa. So he is familiar with our area. He comes with 30 years of experience. I'm glad to have him as part of our team. I'll be available for any questions later on, and I'll turn it over to the next person.
Thank you, Tom, appreciate it. Okay, Morongo Valley CSD, which is new to our MAC, and welcome.
How are you tonight? I'm Gary Yearsley. I'm the new fire chief at Morongo Valley Fire. We also brought on Jim Breakbell as the deputy fire chief to help out with some of the stuff. We have some of the numbers from the year. We were up a little bit in runs, so if anybody needs those, I can get it to you. But I'm kind of new here, just starting out, so hope to get to meet you all.
Thank you, and congratulations. CHP, Simon.
I'm new too.
Yeah, right, yeah. You wish.
Not new, but haven't been here for a long time. So thanks for inviting me back. I don't really have anything. There's nothing new going on with us, but just as a reminder, there have been a couple of fatal collisions recently, both our area and as well as the San Bernardino County. So just as a reminder, I know it may come as a shock, but a high percentage of fatal car collisions involve people that are not using their seatbelts. So please do yourselves and your loved ones a favor, buckle up, and drive safe. And if there's any questions, I know you guys aren't here for me, but I'll be in the back. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, I appreciate it. Cal Fire. Whoops, I'm sorry, I missed that, skipped right over you. Thanks for showing up.
Good evening, my name is Drew Smith, I'm with Cal Fire. Nothing really significant to report, other than we are taking advantage of the cooler weather and a higher humidity, and we're doing fire inspections still. The Yucca Valley station normally has 2 engines out of that station, and we're going through transitional staffing, and we're down to 1 engine for a few months until it starts elevating back into fire danger. In the meantime, we will be doing inspections in state responsibility area before providing advice and direction. We won't be issuing burn permits until we get a significant amount of rain, and it isn't fully out of fire season yet, despite what we see outside, but soon to be, and hopefully we'll start recovering a little bit and get enough rain.
I've got one question. I have relatives that live up in the hills in Santa Barbara area close to the Thomas Fire. They were lucky. And she indicated that she saw mutual aid, San Bernardino County Fire up there. How many units were up there?
Out of the CAL FIRE unit, we sent a total of 2 straight teams, at least 10 engines, and about 18 overhead personnel, 18 to 20 overhead personnel. And there were significant events up and down the state that we distributed out to. And both crew-wise and engine resource-wise, we're kind of spread up and down the state. So I know we spent significant time there, and also there's another incident, it's not coming to me what it was, in San Diego area where we're kind of divided there too. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, yeah. And Tom, how many county units were up there?
San Bernardino County Fire District sent a total of 5 engines altogether, and then we sent 5 OES engines and a total of 8 overhead personnel.
Well, thanks to both of you for the service. Thank you.
Mark, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Recently, I have seen some very large bonfires with flames well over 6 feet. And so what is my proper response to that? Should I call 911?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The first response is anytime you see a fire, if you don't know what it is, call 911.
I know, I was in somebody's backyard.
Yeah, even if you know it's a bonfire in someone's backyard, call 911.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to have that repeated. Thank you.
Okay, our sheriff's captain is going to forego his,
No, Bart is here.
no, would you let me finish? Oh, thank you, Miss Madam Secretary. Yes, he doesn't have much of a report, but he's going to stick around because he'll have some interesting news for you as far as what you're all here for, okay? So we're going to wait until we get to that subject, and he's got some information for you. Okay, do we have anybody from Morongo Basin Ambulance here tonight? No? Okay. Our next is a presentation update by County of San Bernardino Special Districts Department regarding Section 6 from Joshua Tree. I'd like to introduce Frank Hager from CS20 here in Joshua Tree. Frank has been with the county for about 12 years, and he was at the beginning of the inception of this project, and it was his project. So he's got a great presentation for us. Thanks, Frank.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the MAC, and good evening, public concerned citizens that support our efforts to conserve the DVCA area. I am aware that there's been a lot of social media presence recently regarding some of the undesirable use and abuse that's been taking place in that area. And I'm hoping that I can clarify how we as property managers are trying to address those issues. For many of you, this may be a new issue, but I can let you know that when I was first hired here in 2006, we had one office person full-time and 2 full-time maintenance staff full-time. And I was told that we also have this, by the way, 605-acre property that we need to manage. And there's no money. Sounds like you want that job, right? So we try to be creative, and we originally, I applied for a grant, a nature education grant, to get some fundings to help us protect that area, and I was unsuccessful. So then I went back to some of my peers, and 2 additional people and I decided to write grants to the state of California. They were offering a Land Water Conservation Fund grant that's a flow-through grant from the feds, and then also a habitat conservation grant. We were actually the only organization that received both of those grants at the time, and they were for $200,000 each. With that funding, we are moving forward, and we've actually, I'm informing you tonight that our final design plans are at the engineer's office at this time for final approval, and once that final approval takes place, that project will go into a request for proposal. After it's approved by the Board of Supervisors, then it will go out to bid, and that project we're anticipating, just so you have a date on your mind, being completed within the next 18 months. So it seems like it's a long time, but I can tell you that we're working with multiple jurisdictions. It's not just the county of San Bernardino that we're working with. We're also working with the state organizations. We're working with the feds. We're working with BLM, and we're working with the Native American Indians, because any projects, public project improvement projects right now in the state of California require that you actually reach out to the local Native Americans. So I'm encouraged that there's a nice crowd here this evening. A lot of the faces are familiar, and I'm hoping that afterwards I actually have a sign-in sheet. I'm going to make some public appeals for your support and assistance in moving forward with the implementation, and then how, obviously, when we implement a project, we're going to have other issues that are going to come up. But I'd like to show you at least where our plans are right now with a brief presentation. And let's see if this twists. So we believe that the problems that we're seeing today are not new problems. They're basically old problems that have just become magnified because of the increased visitation to the national park. I don't know that the community has appropriately addressed the infrastructure issues that we have here, and unfortunately, the DVCA has been seen for many years as an overflow site to the national park. The fact that the national park has been filled to capacity over most of our holiday weekends, and particularly during the desert bloom and the spring breaks, and now the winter holidays, I know you're all aware of that visitation has increased immensely. And if you're a business person, obviously that's a good thing. But if you're a person that's here to get away from the public and want to preserve the nature and the natural beauty of our local desert, then it's definitely a concern. So we need to find out a better way to address that. And I will make appeal to you at the end of this presentation to find out how we can do that as a team. So we have, basically, the site is supposed to be a day use only site. Well, now you're going to tell me, well, then why don't we lock the gate? So I can tell you that there is a gate that's been in place since before I came here, so before 2006. And the history with that gate is that when it's locked, typically people come and they actually cut off the locks, or they drive around the gate. So then we end up with additional problems of having trailblazing going on in sites that we don't want. And I'll show you what the border of that whole western side of the property is. And theoretically, if we wanted to seal off that area, It would be a little bit more complicated, and again, without funding, it's going to be a challenge. But hopefully, again, when I show you what the project's going to be, it's going to help encourage you that we're actually addressing it in the proper way. So the question was whether do we close the gate at night or leave it open? And basically, because of the fact that we are still at the same staffing levels as we were in 2006, so we still only have 2 full-time maintenance people and 1 full-time office person here at CSA 20. I'm now here, after being here for 10 years straight, I went down to San Bernardino for 14 months and then was brought back just again in this past October to be here in Joshua Tree only 2 days a week. So we're all spread a little bit thin, but hopefully, again, we'll still be able to address the quality project that we want to implement here.
Wait a minute, we didn't address the gate staying open.
Okay, so we have options, and obviously, well, when you see the pictures of the project that we're implementing, we will be installing a new gate and a new sign. It's a no.
We're going to ask that you wait for your questions until the
Thank you.
presentation is done, and then there'll be time for public comment.
Thank you. I'll try to move through as quickly as possible so we can get an idea of what our plan is to implement here. And I will ask your patience to let you know that this is the first phase of a bigger project that we hope, once we get this first phase implemented, that we'll be able to go back to the state and say we want more money for more site amenities and to be able to secure the site more appropriately. So we also have the issue of illegal campfires. As we've always told people, it's still the same policy. You call 911 if there's a campfire out in that property. Unfortunately, my staff is maintenance staff. They were hired to do facility maintenance and grounds upkeep. So they do not carry weapons and they have no authority to enforce the regulations. That's going to be the same when people are abusing the property for other things that are posted in our park use signage. All right, we'll get to that here. So report to local authorities. The district staff does go there on a regular basis. Again, you can imagine their big complaint to me is that they're always hauling out wooden pallets that people have hauled up there to burn. If you've seen any of the campfires after they've been burning, they're just a pile of nails. So they're constantly up there cleaning the nails and they're breaking apart the rock rings, but obviously it's the desert, it's a rocky area. People just find more rocks and they build the rings again. Trailblazing. We are definitely aware that the trail presence has increased. The main objective of the current projects is to define areas where we want people to go. There will be trail markers included along areas that are acceptable use and that don't impact the desert tortoise or the other animals living in the area. But the idea is that we have to tell the public where they can and can't go. Another part of this project is that the roads into the area there'll be a couple additional gates installed so people will no longer have access to BLM 5. And I know there's people in this room right now that want access to BLM 5, but unfortunately, the more we've looked at the overall project, the best interest of the DVCA is to block off access to BLM, which you'll see more in the plans when I show you. Dogs off leash. This is not a Parks and Rec law. This is actually a state of California law that whenever you have your dog outside of a private property, it is supposed to be leashed. It becomes more of an issue when they are actually in a natural habitat area. And part of our job is to do a better job of educating the community when they come from outside of the area and they let their dogs go loose, and then the next thing you know, the dog is either confronting a native inhabitant, so one of the coyotes or one of the desert tortoises, and there's the issue with when desert tortoises are afraid, then they will void, and then that becomes a survival issue with them. And then the other issue is that dogs will dig burrows looking for tortoises. So they'll actually dig them up and disturb the habitat. So it's not, again, it's not a park rule, it's a state of California law, and it's difficult to enforce, but I just encourage people, if you see others out there, to talk to them and educate them a little bit about the fact that their animal can maybe run in a dog park area, but not in our sensitive conservation area. illegal dumping, this has been an ongoing issue. I know that lately, we've been seeing pictures that have been posted up there, that people are doing a better job actually hauling stuff out, but I can tell you, my staff is still up there. Every other day, they go up there, they clean when they can. We actually coordinated a desert cleanup with the local Joshua Tree Clean Team. It's an effort that I would like to reinitiate, that we, at least annually, we go up there and do some cleanup, because the challenge is obviously, again, with my staff's short schedule and the other demands that they have, they don't get a lot of time up there. But there are things like glass, picking up pieces of glass, and then again, with the nails, using magnets to clean up the sand and things. So again, I'm just going through this quickly because I want you to know that we are aware of the same issues that are being posted on Facebook, and that we're not doing anything about it, and the concerns that that we're just ignorant to what's happening out there. We are aware. It's just a challenge for us to manage at this time. Poor signage. That's also been a problem from the very beginning. It's a small sign. A lot of people tend to ignore it. Basically, the idea eventually will have signage that is similar to the hike it in, hike it out policy, where you'll see signs around the facility. But the idea is that we don't want to just pollute the park either with a whole bunch of signage. So the big thing with this project is there will be an entrance sign that will definitely alert the public that they are entering a conservation area. In fact, the size of the sign, some people are going to think it's overkill, but the size of the sign is 30 feet wide by 11 and a half feet tall. And it says in 1 foot tall letters, Desert View Conservation Area, and then throughout the park, then it'll have the information about what type of use is acceptable and not acceptable in the area. So at least people will know where they're coming into. It will also then be attached to a new gate at that same location, and that's one of the things we'll have to explore, if we can actually try closing it, if we can get some volunteers from the community, if we can get some friends of the DVCA to support our efforts, then maybe that's something that we will actually be able to implement successfully. So we come to lack of enforcement. We all are aware that if you post a sign and there's no enforcement, that people are going to abuse it. Unfortunately, we know very well that that's true. We've actually, my supervisor and I, Reese Troublefield is here this evening. He's the district ops manager. He's here, and he might speak to some of the questions you may have regarding enforcement or what our plan is for that. But we've actually met with the local sheriffs. We obviously have spoken to the fire department as well. And as we've met with, I've met with many of you in the community, our policy still has to be that we call 911 first, we call the sheriff's department, and we try to get them out there, even though we know that it's not going to be a priority. And then my two gentlemen that are out there as maintenance staff right now, then they're now logging all of their incidents and all their interactions with the people that they have out there, so that I can actually do a better job of presenting what we are doing to try to take care of that area. But in the meantime, all we can do is inform the public. Again, none of us carries weapons here at Parks and Rec. Basically, it's on the honor system, and we know that some people will follow the signage, and some people will just try to work a way around the signs. Okay, so my staff, just to further define what they do, they're basically information providers and housekeeping. There's not a lot we can do with Parks and Rec staff in that regards. But I am hopeful that if we can reach out to some of the local other conservancy groups and how they're managing and maintaining their properties, that we can get some support in that regards as well. Okay, so this is the DVCA. This is Section 6. The red boundary shows the 605-acre boundary. What is confusing to a lot of people is that the property actually stops here. So this is the west side. And the property stops here. This is before you go up the hill and then go over the hill to BLM. So BLM 5 starts here. The people that camp in BLM 5 and stay there for weeks at a time, a lot of them know that that's BLM property. And so we can't enforce our day use only and our no campfires and our no OHV use that's acceptable our requirements here in BLM 5. So I can tell you, we have met with BLM, and particularly we started when they were proposing that the WEMO project, where they were going to have the OHV trail, would go right through the DVCA, right on, sorry, it was going to go right on the Naga Trail. And I was able to convince them that no, that's not acceptable. And so they rerouted it. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, so they were planning on right through a Naga Trail that was going to be part of the new WEMO. And when we sat down with BLM, they actually agreed that maybe they need to reassess their acceptable use for BLM 5 to be more in alignment with the conservation values that we have for Section 6. So I think that is a really positive thing. They had also told me at the time that they were thinking it would become a moot point because they were hoping that, because that's a management problem for them as well, they were hoping that was going to be actually deeded over to the National Park as part of the Dianne Feinstein Act, which apparently has gone nowhere at this point. So there's still hope that we can get back on board with BLM and get them to align with what we're going to do. All right, let me see if I can go to the next one. Okay, so what I'm going to show you, this is basically the design elements that have been that we've been proposing and are right now at engineering to be approved. That little area is just a small area of the Desert View Conservation Area. It's the first area, and in fact, right up in here is actually that, everybody's calling it Fire Rock or Campfire Rock?
Campfire Boulder.
Campfire Boulder. That's Campfire Boulder right there. So the main first phase of this project is going to mostly affect this area. Again, we can see it a little bit better here. When this is a Naga Trail along this, right here. You can see this is going to be the entry. And when you come up here, I'm going to point this out. This is where one of the gates is going to go, so we will no longer have access to Larkspur Avenue, where people typically go up here and want to camp. And then we also will no longer have access. There will be a gate here, so that you will no longer have access to drive vehicles up to BLM 5. This area is what's going to become the staging area for a new trail area that we will be working with the Conservation Corps to implement. And I think CAL FIRE is going to be involved with it, though they don't know it yet. To build, this is basically a 1/2 mile loop, and it'll tie into a bigger loop that's going to be a total of 3.3 miles that'll go around the whole conservation area. And it'll be mostly restricted to hiking, obviously equestrian and mountain biking along those designated trails. So the other part of this plan is that those designated trails will be clearly delineated. There will be trail markers, and people will know exactly where they are when they're within the park. Okay, that's just again showing some of the detail. The one gate is going to be a double gate because that Larkspur is larger, and then the other will be a single gate up there before you turn off to go over to the Campfire Boulder. This is just a kind of a general idea of what the staging area is going to look like. There will be a 30-foot diameter shade structure with a concrete informational wall embedded in there. And then off to the side, it's actually going to go up here, but off to the side there will be a one-stall facility, restroom facility. All right, it will be a dry latrine. It will not have running water. And it's only going to be for, basically our idea is that by coming into this loop, we'll be able to bring school groups into the area, and they'll be able to go use the facility at the last minute before they go off on the little desert tortoise trail.
Where is Campfire Boulder on that map?
The Campfire Boulder is just west of the shade structure.
It's off map, okay.
This is just a little concept of what the shade structure is going to look like. It is corten steel roof, and there are corten steel panels that are going to be actually cut with some of the designs that the local Native American Indians are proposing, and that it will be representative of our native flora and fauna. This is a detail, and these plans I will post online after tonight's meeting, and I think that the MAC members have copies of those plans. But I'm happy to print out more if other individuals are interested. But this detail over here is basically what the signs will look at the trailhead. We have the Desert Tortoise Trail, which will be called, there's an Indian name for that, and the same with the Bighorn Sheep Trail. And then here's some detail with the different trail markers that will be installed along both the large Bighorn Sheep Trail and the Desert Tortoise Trail. Let's go back to that one. That's just more detail on the signage. And then you'll see we will be installing, as typically is done in these kind of park facilities, installing some of these informational kiosks. And this is kind of a rendering of what that will look like when that's installed in various sites along the path. And that's some of the detail of what the cutouts will look like in the actual panels of the shade structure. And then the other thing that has been proposed, we will do a trial implementation of this, but the architects actually are proposing that we do kind of a parking area restriction so that people don't continue to build the parking bigger and bigger along the road, and the next thing you know, all we have is parking out there. So this is kind of a concrete pole with steel rebar going across it. I also know that we've been suggested steel pole with cables going on it to areas that we don't want people to have access, which we'll have to look at if there's continued abuse, which we are already assuming will be in the future. Okay, so now comes my appeal for assistance. Basically, we know that when we build this first phase, that people are going to continue to abuse the property. They're going to try to go around the new gates. They're going to probably try to camp in the area. But we're gonna try to do a better job of informing the public. What I'm asking for you is to maybe we can start coordinating some of our local volunteers, some of the people that are interested in the community, of assisting us, maybe through a task force with CSA 20 here. Maybe the Morongo Basin MAC has a subcommittee or something that they want to dedicate some time and some assistance to. But the idea is that many of our locations, our conservation, have a Friends of Association. The Big Bear Alpine Zoo has the Friends of the Big Bear Alpine Zoo that help them to raise funds for projects when there are no funds available to a community project. Or they may help them with the information and sharing for the community and education component. They may just be there to open the gate on a Saturday morning when there's no staff at CSA 20 to do that, right? So those are the kind of things that we're going to need help from. I have a contact list that I would like to pass out this evening, or I'll leave at the front there. If you have interest in finding out more about the DVCA or would be interested in being some kind of a supportive docent or volunteer, I'd certainly be happy to have your information and get in contact with you. We'd like to explore options for tourist population management and education throughout the Morongo Basin. I don't believe it's just a problem that we have at the DVCA. I believe it's an issue that we have throughout the Morongo Basin. For example, even here at this site, we've had a lot more presence of people coming in, recreational vehicles, and wanting to spend the night in our parking lots. So we have had to ask them to leave and let them know that they can't park in this facility. So we need more areas to be able to direct them to besides the Joshua Tree Lake bed. Access control. Again, I'm going to be looking at assistance from the Mojave Desert Land Trust, the Joshua Tree National Park, BLM, and other conservancy groups in the area to find out how can we protect those areas around our gate so people aren't just going to start trailblazing and going around it when it's closed to the public during those times. Or how are we going to keep them, besides placing giant boulders in the area and changing the terrain, keeping them out of areas where we don't want them to go. So my final appeal to you is that please don't report inaccurate information. If you have questions, our phone number is on the sign at the entrance to the DVCA. Call us, ask us for information, ask us if we're aware of something that's going on, ask us if we know that somebody's out there filming. There are some film projects that have been approved through through special districts departments to take place there. And the fortunate thing about that, as long as they don't impact the area, that helps us get additional funds to provide this kind of projects to the area. But the fact, for example, there are a couple of facts that I would like to clarify here this evening. There is a deed restriction on the property. That was a requirement of the Land Water Conservation Fund grant, which is a federal fund. The deed restriction does not say that all of a sudden the Board of Supervisors is now giving CSA 20 the property and the responsibility to maintain it. What the deed restriction is put in place is that because that restriction is in place, nobody will ever be able to develop that property. That property will be, is required to stay in perpetuity forever as a recreational park facility. So it can never be developed. And that is a huge accomplishment, and that took me, again, with multiple jurisdictions, risk management, real estate services, a long period of time to get it approved, finally approved, because they had, the Board of Supervisors had specific language, and the state had specific language, and the feds all had specific language that had to be in that deed restriction. That is in place. That was the green light for us to move forward with the design element and to actually implement the project. So that was the first concern. There are also that a lot of concerns posted on the social media was in regards to the funding. And what have we done with the money? So I will let you know that these grants are reimbursement grants, which means that we have to come up with the funds in advance before we do any of the even design elements. So I'm not storing the money here in my safe locally, trying to use it for rainy day funds. It actually doesn't exist until we implement the project. I think those are the main myths that I wanted to dispel at this time. If you have concerns, need to know updates, status reports, I do have a website through special districts. It's Joshua Tree Park and Rec and .org, and you can certainly call us here. I'm only here 2 days a week, but Tammy Moore is our office person. She's an administrator that's here usually 5 days a week. I know that part of the other concern was that we weren't returning phone calls, but that was because the person who called here called on 2 of our holidays, and then which was January 1st and January 2nd. January 3rd, Tammy immediately got back to them. So we do try to provide quality customer service and answer your questions when they come up. Okay, Mark.
Yep. Thank you, Frank. I know a lot of you, or some of you, have turned in comment sheets. If the questions have already been answered for you, then once we call your name, just say that you're satisfied with what's going on. But now we will open it up for questions for a short time now. What?
And the
Yes.
the rules of the of asking questions are that you raise your hand, well, one will bring you a microphone, and then you can ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Mike.
In the comment section?
Pardon?
The only thing I would add that I did neglect to add is that because of the concerns of the human excrement in the area, we did put a temporary portable potty up there as of Friday. We know that that's going to probably cause more problems than it's going to cause solutions, but it's near the area where there will be a permanent facility, and we thought, well, we've got to give it a try and see how it works out.
Mr. Chairman, can you also open it up to public comment?
If you filled out a slip, sure.
And you have to raise your hand when you do the mic. He's working that side on working. Yeah.
We're doing questions and answers now. Public comments will be later.
I just have a couple quick general questions. Okay. I just have a couple quick general questions about CSA 20. What other assets are you managing? And when you talk about cutting off access to BLM 5, is that just vehicular access or walking access?
Good. Okay, so basically we oversee the Joshua Tree Community Center, these parks here. We have a community park where we also oversee a preschool program. It's a very active preschool program, and I do have a full-time staff person that's hired there, plus some PSEs, some seasonal help that she works with. Then we also have Friendly Hills Park, which is a community park, a little pocket park up in the Friendly Hills community. As far as Was the second part of your question?
The access to
Section 5 access. So,
BLM5?
that's going to be up to part of what the 3-mile loop that was on the one side that had the green area trail and the orange area trail. The orange area trail will actually take you almost up to BLM5, so there will be probably a split off if people want to go off that area, either with mountain bikes or hiking. They'll have access, but there will be no vehicular access to that area.
Yeah, my name is Jim. My wife and I own the 2 houses on Onaga going up there, the one with the tennis court and then the one across the street. They're both Spanish houses, so we're directly impacted by all the cars. Now, I'm not sure the county is aware of how many cars go up there. Would you like to know? In 1 hour, when we were playing tennis, just not, well, for the last year, in 1 hour on one day, 72 cars. So I'm interested in how many parking spots are you going to put up there?
Well, I think the plan showed about 8 actual areas for cars to park, and then there'll be some areas down at the bottom, but it's going to be limited access for vehicles to get in there. And
Well, I like everything you've proposed. Everything sounds great, but I want to back up a little bit about the gate down on Onaga. Is it going to remain open, or why can't it be monitored in the meantime where someone can open it 12 hours a day? Because the idea of citizens going up there at night, half the people up there, there's many people living in their vans up there. It is the most dangerous area I've ever been into, especially at night. So you're going to ask people to volunteer to go up there. When I see patrol cars go up there, I never see one go up there. I see 2 and 3 go up there because they have the good sense to have backup. That's how dangerous it is up there. And we live there 24 hours a day, so everything I'm telling you is factual.
so again, I would have to tell you that if you feel that you're in danger, or if there's a security issue there, you need to call 911.
If I were to go up there and interrupt these guys, absolutely I'd feel in danger.
I can tell you the same, my staff feels the same way, I feel the same way when I go to camping sites and there's nobody visible and you know that they're in there and you have to knock on the door or yell loudly to have them come out and address it. So it is an issue of enforcement. We're aware of that.
One other thing, what concerns me is you put one recently, a porta potty up there, but that makes me feel that you don't understand the magnitude of the problem, because we feel that, well, we know for a fact that there's over 400 cars during the week in a 24-hour period that go up there. That's what goes up has to come back down on that road. We have the easement, we signed the easement to get up there. But that's over 4,000 people a week. So one porta potty, I don't think is going to do it, is it?
No, I don't believe that one facility will, when it's a permanent facility, will either.
So why can't we put boulders up there around the gate if you can't do anything else? Just 2-foot boulders like we have on each side of the road.
So I can tell you that that whole frontage side of the property that is the challenge, because you can put boulders up one place and they're going to go across in a different area. So that's why we're actually looking at doing a possible.
Yeah, well, I have boulders
Pole and cable.
all up and down and signs for dust, and no one's ever taken them down, or none of the boulders, and they're not that big. They're like maybe 2 and 3 feet. I mean, that's big, but you can do it with a small tractor. That's all I'm saying for cost. So.
Yep, I appreciate the concern.
Hang on.
Thank you.
Hang on. Can I add something here in the meantime, because we've been working on this for a couple of weeks now. We're developing a 3-prong, I don't want to call it attack, but a 3-prong enforcement model. First of all, we've got the sheriff involved in this now. They knew there were some problems up there, but they had no idea it was such as it is now. Is Mike Barta still here? Yes. Could you give a microphone and a brief description of what you found there recently based on requests?
So last Thursday evening, I sent a couple of gentlemen up there from my department. They ended up contacting roughly 20 people there that were camping in there. They educated them that that was a day use service only. It appears, from what they told me, most of those people were actually tourists from out of the area, not from around here. And they were under the impression, obviously, that that was an overflow campground area. We told them it was not.
The Joshua Tree Visitor Center sends the people up there.
No, they don't.
No, they have, because we have had people ask us, oh, is this what the overflow is? They told us down at the visitor center. They didn't camp up here.
So
Judy, we understand that, and there's other entities that might be telling people that's an overflow area, not knowing the difference. So we are going to address that problem. We realize that's happening. Go ahead, Mike.
So I actually had them go out again this afternoon. So, and they made contact with all the individuals that were out there. All those individuals assured my guys that they were not going to be camping there. So we'll see how that works. So, and probably tonight, somebody else will also be, from our department, will be going and checking. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me if you guys go all the way to the back of the park when you go through, do a run through and check the park out, or you just do the immediate first area? There's lots of nooks and crannies, and it take your officers a long time, really honestly, to ever go through that park. And they have to go by two, so that's a lot of enforcement that we're asking for, and I don't think that's happening every day, because there's gotta be on a weekend, like Jim says, 50 to 100 cars is constantly coming down, and for you people to put this impact on our neighborhoods without a traffic study, I don't think it's fair or right to make it, so. And I don't think the enforcement's getting done out there. I'm sure you guys did go out there, I'm not putting down any of you officers, but it can't be enforced. If we're gonna allow vehicles to go in there, then they can take their firewood, they can take their spray paint, they can take everything.
Without a microphone, none of us can hear what you're saying, and neither can the camera.
All right, let me interrupt. I was going with a three-prong approach to this. And our sheriff's department is one approach. The second one is normally the code enforcement department does not go into special districts and do code enforcement. They kind of leave it to themselves. It's never been done before. However, since this area is in the unincorporated area and owned by the county, they have made an agreement as recently as today between the managers of code enforcement and special districts that they are going to help out in the code enforcement. So we will be providing to the public a number that you can call for code enforcement. You can get a case number and they will send people out to take a look at it. This is a start. We've got 20 more people that now know that they're not supposed to be camping in the area, particularly it's only a day use area. This will spread. The Sheriff's Department is spread thin, and I applaud them for going up and helping us with this project. It's going to be more and more education as we move along here, but it's a start. So hopefully Frank's appeal to get some kind of association, and I got to say that when this thing was asked many years ago by the local, they promised to develop and convene a local conservation group, Friends of the Conservation Area, and that never happened. So I got to say that kind of the county was left holding the bag on the enforcement issue. Of course, not knowing that it would get to this level. So we're starting from ground zero. We're learning based on your complaints and from social media, and we appreciate that. So this is what we're trying to do with a three-prong approach to some kind of a solution to this. Tom, you've got one?
Could I also add that
Yes.
this is a question time, and if the people want to make public comments, we have comment sheets to be turned into you.
They have already been turned in, and if their comments or their questions have already been answered, we'll call your name anyway if you want to make an additional comment. Celeste?
Yes, thank you, Mark. I just want to say I was involved in this from the beginning, and Frank and I go a long way back on Section 6 and other people. Most of the ideas here were developed at the community level. After many, many public meetings, people attended, equestrians, mountain bikers, rock climbers, hikers, everybody. And we got input. The consensus was to limit vehicular access because that seems to be the biggest problem. If people can drive in there, then the abuses are easy to happen. The number of vehicles that go in there at night are or during the day are people that want to camp there. And if we can close that off at night and restrict the access, then I think that goes a long way to solving many of the problems that we have seen. And the other thing I want to say is I own a business in Joshua Tree, and I cater to campers and people that are visiting the park, and I never tell anybody about Section 6. And if anybody asks, I tell them absolutely no. And I also know that other businesses in town do not send people there. And I have been to the visitor center several times, and they assure me that they do not send people to Section 6 for overflow camping. That is not the official policy. That is not the informal policy for the Park Service. And every once in a while, somebody does do that, but it's not what any of the local businesses, as far as I'm aware of, are doing, and it's not what the visitor center or the Park Service is doing. And I just want to say thank you to Frank, and thank you to Special Districts and CSA 20. This has been a long and arduous process because the money just isn't there, and it's really hard to come by. And thank you.
Well, thanks for putting the word out, Celeste. We appreciate it.
I have a question for the sheriff. Where'd you go? Oh, you're right there. The first question is, and I think it's great that you've got extra people heading up there. Do you have any plans on Friday or Saturday nights to sort of have patrols up there? Because, I mean, you know, as with the other folks that spoke, from my living room couch, I can watch the streams of headlights. And if there is any possibility that you could get people to swing through there on weekend nights, that's the biggest problem. And the other question that kind of goes with that is, we've been watching this area for 17 years, and we have called in the past, and the sheriff's dispatch has no idea what we mean when we say Section 6. So how would you like us to identify the area that we're calling about when we do make those phone calls?
Since our dispatch is in Victorville, so.
Right.
They don't have a clue what's out here.
We usually, I think, just call the local sheriff dispatch office rather than call 911. So do you have a suggestion for how we should explain to them where we're talking about?
My suggestion is you tell them actually where it's at. It's off of Quail Springs and Onaga. It's off of Quail Springs and Onaga. I'm not used to having a mic in my face. And tell them that it's a day use only area and that there's people trespassing in the area.
Okay, day use only, people trespass. Okay, thank you.
So, or illegally camping in the area.
My question to you is about the bathroom you're putting out there, the one-holder. If you have a group of kids on a school bus, that is going to extend their period of time there to get them all lined up to go. And I think that's not really practical.
So I can tell you there was a lot of discussion about putting facilities in there at all. Bottom line is that it's going to be a trial situation. Most of the consensus was to have no restroom facilities there at all. But obviously we're seeing what happens when there are no facilities. So we're starting with one. It'll be a permanent structure. And the idea was that we didn't want to affect the sites in the area as well, because obviously you put a facility in the area and that's going to permanently affect where you can take pictures, what the desert's going to look like. So it's not going to be designed as a larger facility for people to use the restrooms or to stop off of Onaga Trail to go there just to particularly use the restroom. The idea is that if there is an emergency situation that they can go. And like my home, it's go before you go, right?
So
I think that's the same problem you have in the park with the hikers. They don't have bathrooms, and they make do. So I think this is sound thinking, and like Frank said, they're going to look at it once this thing has been in use for a period of time and make adjustments as necessary. But the hikers in the park run into the same thing. There's very few bathrooms in there once they're off on those trails. So same concept. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question also for the Sheriff's Department. And my question is it possible to write citations for people who are camping illegally? My perception is that the word has gotten out that this is a free overflow camping site. And I think by word of mouth, lots of people are heading there. And I think that it would also quickly move through word of mouth that you get fined if you camp there. If we could actually have, in addition to the education, which I very much appreciate and support, some tickets. Is that possible?
There is a penal code quoted on the sign.
Quick question about the blueprints, the plans.
Yes.
Will they be housed on the Land Use Services site or on your Parks and Rec?
I'll put them on the Parks and Rec site, I'll also put them on the engineering site down at the...
Oh, thank you.
Wait, coming, there's one over here.
Hi. Two questions. One, given the uptick of the problem, it seems, in the last 3 months, how often has the sheriff intervention occurred as described? And the second question is, what's the demographic of the people who are violating the day use and guilty of the abuses? Have you done any research on that?
That is one of the new initiatives that I have my staff, when they actually talk to people, they're now logging more information and more details about what the follow-up was with those individuals. So I can't tell you specifically the demographics. It sounds like, from what I've heard tonight, though, that a lot of the people are from out of town. But I can tell you that the abuse that took place earlier was mostly by locals. In fact, we've had locals here at MAC meetings that actually bragged about the fact that they would always cut our gate open so they could go and have their bonfires and their parties up in Section 6 on the weekends.
Well, the only reason I mention this is because if you're going to do education, you need to know who you have to educate. And there are a lot of campsites, or I'm sorry, there's a lot of websites that cater to certain demographics of campers that are possibly guilty of doing this. So some of that research is necessary.
Right, that's a valid point. We'll definitely look more into those details.
But my first question was answered. How often have the interventions happened?
Actually, I check call for service.
Yes, ma'am. I check call for services. So we were only called out there since December 1st, 3 times.
We also do have Citizens Patrol goes through there regularly. I've never seen them interact with people. I do see them drive through there, so I'm not exactly sure what their incentive is to go there, just basically to observe what's going on.
Okay, Frank, did you say there was going to be a barrier of some sort, keep vehicular traffic away from 5?
So there's along Onaga Trail there, once you get to the turnoff to go to the main staging area there at the Campfire Boulder, there will be a new gate.
But they're going through 6 into 5.
They will no longer have access to go.
Okay. All right, you and then that gentleman, right?
My question's been partly answered, but you said you were working with the BLM to maybe reevaluate the use of Section 5. Because I know that camping is illegal in the Section 6 day use area. It is not illegal on BLM land. So I'm wondering if the sheriff even could legally write tickets. That's the first question. Second one is, how seriously is the BLM looking at changing the use of that land? Because it's on maps as BLM land, and outdoor people are familiar with the policies and rules for camping on BLM land, which is a legal use of the area.
Well, my understanding with BLM is that they can still designate the type of use that they have on their specific properties. Again, the fact that they don't have a lot of management staff to help out and to enforce that is a problem, but they were in agreement with actually aligning with our accepted use policies.
I can answer that question. It's a misnomer to think that BLM is their own entity on their land. They own it. But as long as BLM land falls within the unincorporated area of San Bernardino County, our ordinances can be enforced by local law enforcement on their land. Now, that brings up another point. does our ordinances say they can't camp on land that's outside of a special district? And that's something we need to look into and find out. Because this is not within the special district, but there still are camping ordinances on open land in the unincorporated area, even though it's BLM. So that's something we'll look into and find out.
Hello there. I've been coming out to Section 6 for quite some time. I'm one of the people that used to camp there quite a bit. I don't camp there anymore because I know you're not allowed to. But a lot of people don't know that. And I want everybody in here to look in the mirror. How many of you guys were kids at one time and wanted to go out and play and have fun and come out and enjoy Joshua Tree? If you guys are going to close a place down and tell people they cannot go somewhere, what are you opening up? And where are you telling them they can go?
I'd like to ask a question. If anybody knows of the name of the rocks going towards the Hammer in Johnson Valley, there's rock formation there that has been destroyed over the years. Does anybody know what I'm talking about there?
Graffiti Central.
Our park is going to look like that if we don't take some proactive action, because I'm not blaming the sheriff here at all. We can't expect the sheriff to go through this park on a daily basis and chase everybody out. If you call for certain, are you guys honestly telling me that you guys will come if we call? Because I got to tell you right now, a lot of these neighbors can see fires up on the hillside at night. We can see fires up on the hillside at night, always on the weekend. Are you guys going to have enough people to come and that's only in the front of the park here. When you go deep into the park, I ride a bike in there and there's a lot of nonsense that happens deeper into the park that probably is not addressed, so.
I can tell you that if you call 911,
Okay,
somebody's responding.
okay.
If it's on BLM land during the day, BLM's going to respond.
No, it's
If it's
section
on
6.
BLM land at night, guess who their nighttime fire department is? County Fire District.
Okay.
We don't take a call from 911 and go, no, we're not going to go. We go to every call.
Okay.
So you have to be specific. We have to be able to find out where it's at.
Honestly, I think we need to close the gate, or we just bring this to that area that shouldn't be there. I mean, honestly, people can bring trash, spray paint, guns, everything when you can drive a vehicle in. That's what happened to Johnson Valley Rocks over there. It's like uncontrolled chaos over there. Now they ruined that area. And that's what's going to happen, I'm afraid, up here. And I believe you guys probably have a mission statement to protect the neighbors' quality of life and possibly our value of our homes over there. And by the overwhelming park entrance, what's happening there, we're getting all this right away. So it's not like it's taken a long time to do this. This is happening right now, fast, and we need to be proactive at it or we're going to lose it. Thank you.
Okay, here's a question. When you go into Onaga and you're saying there's a new gate on Larkspur, and then there's a new gate further on Onaga to stop vehicular access, are we still allowed to hike down Larkspur and maybe climb a rock over there? Can we hike?
Absolutely. So one of the part of our education process will be to let people know that obviously when you trailblaze and create a new trail, it takes sometimes up to 100 years for that trail to return back to its natural state. So we will direct people that as far as if there's an existing road, that's certainly an area you can still hike along, but that will just be restricting any kind of vehicular access.
And how about the wash on the, east of on the north side, that big wash that's beautiful, a lot of people hike, trail run down there,
Right,
climb.
there,
You're going to restrict access
there are some areas we won't be restricting access, but we will be showing people where we prefer that they hike. So there will be trail markers and it'll be actually clearly delineated. I've walked the whole 3.5 miles several times with putting GPS points down, and then the actual designers, Architera, came out and they actually walked and made some other suggestions of what they felt would be interesting areas. So we've tweaked that a little bit, but those will be specific where we want to direct people. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to boulder and climb up into the mountains and do things like that you normally do in a park.
Okay.
Hi, Frank. Oh, back here. So I'm sort of one of the ones that's been watching that section for a couple of decades, and I've seen the paint, the fires, the drinking, the kids. And They pretty much kept to the same sites, and they knew where they could go to stay out of the line. I was the one, and I feel a little challenged by you, so I'm gonna try not to get defensive here, but I was the one who initially reported the use recently on Facebook. Normally, it's just pictures of my daughter, but when I said there were 27 cars at Campground Rock, there were 27 cars. There were 15 cars at the next one farther east, and then I stopped counting at somewhere around 65 as I went farther up. So we're talking hundreds of people up there. And I'm Jim's neighbor, and I gotta say, Jim, we were challenged, I think, by Mark here to form a group of citizens. And yeah, well, I think you and I and a couple other people can get together, get a dozer, because I know you get stuff done, and we can block off that road. We can just make it happen. Because I just don't understand, someone said this has been going on for 3 months. This hasn't been going on for 3 months. Yeah, block it off.
Forever, so even locals.
No, go walk, go ride your horse, go walk, ride your bike, whatever, but let's just keep the cars out of there. There's no reason to have cars up there. But we've been waiting on this for years. And I'm the same one, I've called a few times and I've had the 911 dispatcher say, where? And I'm like, well, you go east on Onaga, east from Coil Springs Road, where? And then you watch the area from your porch and you just see nothing happen. So we should make something happen because the road now is 4 cars wide in certain places. There are new turnouts every weekend. Every weekend. And I went up there the last time a large film was done. And we had to search high and low for your county rep who was supposed to be protecting the area. And I don't want to name names because there's a guy up there that we absolutely love. But they were dragging heavy movie equipment all over, not following any use trails. And I had to point out to that county man what was happening in his line of sight. Right? And those people, I'm sure, paid a lot of money to be there, but they sure wiped out a lot of desert in that one movie shoot, whatever it was.
Well, that's the first concern I've heard regarding that issue, but I will say that I am encouraged by the fact that there are so many people here tonight and that so many people are supporting the conservation aspect of the area. Because I can tell you, when we first brought this forth to the local community, a lot of people said, absolutely no improvements there, don't lock the gate, let everybody come who wants to come because it's a natural park. So actually you're supporting more of what my personal mission has been in order to conserve the area. And I can tell you the things that keep me up at night, I've been up there when people are harvesting rattlesnakes. They go up there because apparently they can collect rattlesnakes and they can sell them to local pharmaceuticals. And, it does get to the place where you say, how much longer can our deserts be raped and pillaged like this? So I'm glad, again, I'm going to continue to make this appeal. Come to me, support, let me know how you can help us out, and we'll get you involved.
Are you done, Frank? Yes. Okay. I was going to make a suggestion in his appeal.
Please don't just shout out.
That's it then.
The last comment, we need to move on to the other comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
so idea, for those of us who walk up there almost every day, I'm always walking up there saying, I wish I just had something I could hand these people. So could you please make some sort of a flyer that we could come down and we could pick up copies, and when we're walking up there, we could have something from the county?
Absolutely.
Yes, I know some people will throw it away, but at least, I've been thinking of making my own up, but I don't have the authority. So if you could do that for those of us who are willing to try to educate people up there, then, you've got people who are up there every day who are happy to help.
We'd most definitely want to be on board with that.
That would be great.
Okay, thank you all for coming.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a public comment if I may.
If you filled out a slip, you can. Al?
I'm entitled to 3-minute public comment, aren't I?
If you filled out a slip, when we do public comment, we're not there yet, Al. Al, we're not there yet. We still got another item on the agenda, okay?
If you don't mind. Brown Act, and I should be able to make a public
Yes, you can when we get to it. Thank you, Al. Yes, yes, absolutely. We had a presentation by Blake Baxter, and it's called The Challenge of Rural Broadband. Now, Blake, let me explain a little bit of what's going on. This area has been designated as underserved for broadband, especially out in the outlying areas like Yucca Mesa, Landers, and such. There is a local consortium, actually it's county-wide, that is working on bringing broadband to the complete area. We have a company that's interested in doing that. We have enlisted the help of Blake Baxter, who is an expert on this subject. He has made a presentation, but obviously tonight we talked about it, and he's probably not going to make that presentation. It is late, Blake, and I think we got a lot of people here that would like to come back and listen to it because it's an important issue. I know some of you people that don't have broadband out in your area. This company is willing to come in and build infrastructure to do it, and it's a very interesting presentation, and I think it's something that the Morongo Basin as a whole really needs. So I apologize. Blake, are you here? Kat, I see you back there. Is that okay? Because I think you need more time.
Yeah, maybe please come back next month. We'll do it in February's meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to go over some of the particular challenges we have here with broadband and
You know the rules.
Yeah, good. Let's.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give Blake a few minutes to explain what he's going to be presenting.
Yeah, so, I mean, for anybody in the room that has cable, you might be lucky. In most of the area, we don't have wireline or wired internet. And so we rely on other providers that can provide wireless, and service can be hit and miss at times. So there is a consortium. There's, I think, 19 in California. There's one for Riverside and San Bernardino counties that looks at areas and tries to decide if they should help private companies or public utilities apply for grants to run new infrastructure, and this is one of those areas. So I was going to go over that a little bit, talk about why we have challenges out here relative to broadband, and then there is something that the public can do over the next 6 or 7 months. There's a California Public Utilities Commission survey that takes place that allows you to provide information to the state of California as to what internet service you have at your home. And the reason why this is important is because there's a publicly available map that I'll go over next month that shows what the state of California thinks we have here, and you'll be very surprised. In fact, Desert View Conservation Area is wired for 50 megabit cable from Time Warner if you look at their map. So one way to correct that, they get their information from the utilities. So Time Warner at one point told them it was there. Frontier at one point told the state of California that they could provide DSL and other services out here, and in a lot of the places it's not there. So I'll go over the particulars of how that bad information gets to the state and how we can correct it. So please come back next month.
Perfect. Thanks, Blake. I appreciate your patience. Okay, item K, reports by members of the MAC. Tom, you got anything?
Go for it.
Steve?
The only microphone. Yeah, the point I'd like to make is over New Year's, we, up in the Pipes Canyon area, we found a tremendous number of off-highway vehicles racing down our county dirt roads, and something which we don't like, something we want to keep an eye on. Also, a lot of shooting up by the new monuments, the sand to snow monuments, and automatic weapon fire, which was, I think, if I hear that again, we'll be calling the sheriff's office. And just in general, we are very interested in the county-wide plan process that's undergoing now to make sure that the county listens to our concerns and incorporates our concerns within the new countywide plan. Not a suggested action plan. We are really looking for a countywide, a community plan that has some teeth in it. That's it.
Okay, I have nothing from Joshua Tree except section 6, and we've covered that, so I'm going to move on.
I just have a quick report. Caltrans is going to be at the Morongo Valley CSD meeting next Tuesday, the 16th, and they're specifically coming out to talk about the highway in Morongo Valley from the top of the Yucca grade to the top of the grade that comes up from the low desert. They are doing construction now. If anybody who rides through there has any comments, we would really appreciate you coming to that meeting, because people in the community are very concerned about how they constructed a lot of the barriers in the valley. We've already had one incident where somebody got hung up on an area there and was sticking out in the fast lane. So I would appreciate if any of you are concerned about that issue because you drive through Morongo Valley, if you would come to that meeting. It's at 7 o'clock on January the 16th, which is a Tuesday, at 7 p.m. at the Morongo Valley Community Center at Covington Park. Thank you.
Mary Helen Tuttle from Copper Mountain Mesa. There's always an update from Copper Mountain Mesa because we're moving ahead, and it's really a good thing. There's some new blood, new faces out there. We just recently had a breakfast. We did 82 plates, so that's that's a lot, right, Dawn? Yeah. And so we finished our fiscal year a couple of thousand ahead, which is wonderful because that's money that's going into our roof fund as we desperately need a new roof. So we are one of the only community centers that are owned by the area, owned by the members, and where some new volunteers are coming in. So things are looking up.
Good evening, and I really have nothing to report, so you can go now.
Okay, item L, call for public comments. Normally, we only allow 3 comments per subject, but tonight we're going to waive that rule and
Yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to call your name. You'll come up here, grab the mic. You'll get 3 minutes. I'm going to time you and then bonk you on the head. Got that?
Thank you.
Okay. Judy Corlono.
My comments are going to fit right in with Section 6. Giant rock. We just got it all cleaned up out there in Landers. And over the holidays, we had over 100 RVs, not counting tents and people camping. Graffiti, destruction of the wildlife habitat. People tearing it up to use it to burn, to make fires. We had fireworks. We had fires. And total destruction, again. And people don't, we're talking about signage. We don't know where the BLM has 2 people for, 1,600 square miles. So we don't get a lot out there, if any. They did help recently with the big tire cleanup and the Landers cleanup. But it's just, I don't know. We're at a loss. We need help out there again to clean it up. And signage, that's another thing. We don't know if the county can provide it, if the BLM can provide it. You know, pack it in, pack it out. Don't leave that mess there. And the graffiti is, you know, graffiti's graffiti. And then for a lighter note, the Landroid Cafe will be open Saturday, and they have coffee that rivals Starbucks, and it's way cheaper, and our thrift store is open. So, thank you.
Andrea Dale. Have you already said your comments, or do you have something else to say?
She's going for me.
All right, let's go.
Good evening, and thank you all for hearing our comments on Section 6. My name is Laura Crane, and first of all, I just want to start off by saying I think what we all recognize in this room is that we have such a jewel in Section 6. I mean, what an amazing place. It is a place where I have seen desert tortoise, I've seen bighorn sheep, I've seen all kinds of snakes and raptors. brought my kids out there from the time they were tiny, teach them about nature, let their imaginations run wild. You know, we filmed them acting like Star Wars characters and Star Trek characters out there. So it's an amazing, amazing place. I am there every single morning with my dog when I'm in town, and we hike every day. And I just wanted to tell you all about an experience that I had with my dog about a month ago. It happened mid-November. I took my dog for a hike. I can train him to avoid tortoises. I can train him to avoid rattlesnakes, keep him on a leash, but I can't train him not to eat things that campers leave behind. And there had been campers there the weekend before. It was a Monday morning, 6:30 in the morning. We went out for a hike. The campers had left, but he smelled something. He got into something at a campsite before I was able to get him to release it, and he ate it. And at first, it didn't dawn on me that anything was the matter. We went through our hike, and he started acting just a little bit off, just slightly off. And by the time I got home, I just was noticing, like, what is going on with you, buddy? Something's the matter. Well, I got my kids off to school, I started work, and about an hour into work, he just started crying and crying and crying. So I went outside to see if he was okay, and I said, come here. And he couldn't walk. He was falling over. I went to pet him. He was cringing, like he was afraid of me. I have 1 minute left. He couldn't control his urine. I took him to the emergency room. Needless to say, he ate something toxic. Most likely, the vet thinks it was some sort of edible cannabis product that campers had left behind. It cost our family almost $2,000 in vet bills because he had to spend the night. He was given all kinds of treatments. I'm still not through yet with this. His kidneys are okay, but his blood platelets have not yet reached normal levels, so I need to take him back to make sure that his blood platelets are okay. So I just wanted to emphasize that it affects us in so many different ways. As you can imagine, my kids were terrified when the vet wouldn't say that they knew he would be okay. And I had to go home and say, he's spending the night at the vet's, and we don't know. He ate something really bad in Section 6. Thank you for this time.
Dr. Judy?
Hi. Hello. My husband Jim and I built 2 homes, and on 2 properties. We're on the corner of the intersection of Quail Springs and Onaga Trail. And I really wanted to emphasize factually how we know how many cars that go by, because we spend a lot of time. We walk about 7.5 miles a day. We have horses, we go outside, we're on the tennis court for over an hour, and you can see the cars coming and going. So we averaged it about, between the holiday weekends and during the week, about 400 vehicles. If there was only 1.5 persons in the car, which there's always more than that, but let's just say 1.5, that's 4,200 people a week. That's a lot of people up there. The vehicles, if the gate, I don't know when Frank's going to get all of his plans done and when it's going to happen, but there needs to be something that doesn't cost that much and can be done pretty quickly, which is there is the temporary gate. It could be closed if we could get monitoring going up so that people aren't allowed to camp up there. There's school buses. Let me just give you the 6 groups of people that we've noticed. There's campers. There's people that are living in their vehicles, which are vans and school buses. There's tourists. There's people trying to walk their dogs. There's hikers. And there's very, very few people on horseback anymore. I mean, there's a few people, but a lot of people can't ride their horses. We stopped riding our horses up there because the dogs off leash and stuff, it was just too dangerous. So we don't take our horses up there anymore. And the campers and people sleeping, we've had people sleeping on the perimeter of our property. And frankly, we were too concerned to go up there and confront them. And it was on a weekend, so we didn't call. And if they hadn't been gone by Monday, we were going to call. But they spent 3 nights there in a school bus. So we would like to suggest that the gate that's there, we could put boulders along the side so people can't maybe navigate too much. And it might discourage enough people to go someplace else or to find a campsite that's a regulated campsite. So they could close the gate, we could prevent people from going around the gate, and at least until fencing could be installed. The area needs to be patrolled 2 or 3 times, especially if we're going to close the gate at night, so that somebody with authority can go up there. I'm not going to go up there and confront people and ask them to leave. And so the other thing is to permanently close the gate until we get all these plans done and enacted. So, but I do want to emphasize that there are thousands of people. Now, it has slowed down since Friday, so we knew, something was good was going on. Thank you.
Richard Greer?
I am ratepayer here in Joshua Tree, and I think we're missing it here, guys. I really do. We have a lot of momentum here and a lot of people that we could all band together right now and do something proactive. I mean, proactive to me is starting with signs even that can be on grading stakes. They look like this. They're today's things, so everybody can read them and they can't say they didn't know what it meant. These are easy. We can put lamination on these and put them on a stake, and that's proactive. That's doing something right now today, and that's what I really want to see done. Being a neighbor up there and seeing what's happening so quickly. We've really got to do it. If you guys would just sign a sheet tonight, we'll buy the locks for the place. They can't be that much. Not that many people are going to break out. They'll wait till morning. That seems like a little crime compared to what's happening up there right now. A lot of crime up there right now. Please, pay attention to it, or we're going to wind up like the rocks on the way to Johnson Valley. I don't know how they are now. I haven't been over that way in a while, but I got to say, they've really ruined the rocks over there. We got a chance to stop them. We got a gate. That's all we have to do is close the gate. It's as simple as that. If you're going to let cars in during the day, we need lots of signage. If you're driving up the road, us neighbors will let you put signs on our property. We'll put them tomorrow that say no fires, no camping. That's all easy. It's something we can do now. We don't want to wait till you get a parking lot and all that. That is not going to help our neighborhood. It really isn't. The overflow needs to be addressed right away because it's coming way faster than any of us realize. We need to keep our ear to the ground and hear this, and we can't expect the sheriff or the fire department to go over there on a daily and a nightly basis to go tell people to put out their fires and get out of there. So I'm all for closing the gate, putting signs up immediately, and getting a group of people that'll help work the gate, lock it, unlock it, or whatever. I say, let's go, let's sign it. Come on, people. Thank you.
Dan, you have anything else? Yeah. Oh. Silly me.
I gotta support my neighbors. Good, Dan. Can I just add, if you look up the... Now your 3 minutes is up. If you look up the conservation area, it says right on the first page, free camping in Joshua Tree. Just look up Desert Park, Desert View Park or whatever, and right on there, on the internet, in several places, it says free camping in Joshua Tree. That's not good for us. No.
Okay. Thank you again for bringing this to this MAC meeting this week. I'm not sure if it's coincidental that this is happening tonight or whether it was inspired by the social media alone, but I have to side with my neighbors here. I'm a neighbor of Jim, and I think waiting like we've been waiting for the last few decades, we can't do anymore. I think the bell has rung on Section 6 and CSA 20, and it has to be stopped. We're losing measurable amounts of land up there now, and it's going to look like Giant Rock any minute. And tonight, my wife and I walk up there every night, and we break fire rings because we're a little bit concerned about fires burning our house down. It's a big concern for me. And tonight we were breaking down the fire rings with my daughter, and I didn't want to do it. I do it too much. I do it every day. And tonight I dug my hand right into a condom. And I don't want to be doing that. And my wife said, take a picture of it, bring it to the MAC. I'm like, I'm not going to take a picture of it. But that's, it's just an example, you can be eating whatever it was that your poor dog ate, or we could be digging into condoms, or we could just be looking at the destruction of our desert up there. This area that was deeded to be protected, and we're not protecting it. So I think we can. I think there's a way. Just look straight across from your house, Jim. That land over there by Coyote Hole used to be a disaster. A couple of metal stakes and 3 rings of barbed wire, and nobody goes there anymore. You could string that right across that western border and put an end to it. It could happen. I don't see why we don't do it. I'm done.
Cindy, you have anything to add?
No, he said it all.
Kevin Walker?
All right. I'm kind of known for being rude, blunt, condescending, all the above. A couple rude awakenings for you guys. The reason why the gate doesn't get locked right away is because currently regulations still need to provide access to the back section of Section 5. Until that changes, you're going to be hard pressed to legally block off access. I do think it is a massive problem. I'm a huge proponent of multi-use trails. I believe everyone deserves to have access. That Section 5 is one area that I'm really considering letting go. Just because it is right up against the park, it is going to impact what's happening in Section 6. And the bottom line is that humans are pretty disgusting these days. A lot of it falls on the parents, the household, not raising their kids with respect, not teaching them how to go out in the world and do that stuff. We as a community, as the neighbors, that is our space. We didn't want structures and pit toilets and information kiosks and everything to taint that area. But with the new marketing campaign in the national park and everything else that's going on, our objectives have changed, the user groups here have changed, and we need to change. We need to take it in our own hands. The education is the most important aspect. I have worked volunteer with Forest Service up in Lee Vining area, making contact with every single person I can come across in a day. Not because I'm there to write them a citation, but because I want them, A, to be able to explore the area safely. B, I want them to preserve the area so other people can go there. And yeah, basically the way that we looked at it, I was supposed to be enforcing 28-day camp limits. If you kept a super clean, neat camp, had no bear damage going on, it was all nice and tiny, enjoy your public land as long as you want. But if I'm coming back day after day, seeing you not making any attempt, then I'm going to call the LEO in. Call in somebody who has the authority to deal with that problem. I'm willing to volunteer my time here in Section 6. I have a large, intimidating truck with a whole bunch of light bars, scares people, and I've had experience contacting a lot of hostile people and a lot of people who just don't know any better. And I think that's most of what we run into. A reward program too, maybe hauling out trash and you get some sort of compensation for discounted entry to the park, something with Mojave Desert Land Trust. bring a pile of trash out. There's a lot of solutions, so, but it's our responsibility.
Al Marquez.
Al Marquez, Sunfair Community of Joshua Tree. First off, I just wanted to present some information. I hope I can do it in 3 minutes. This goes back to the 1996, when the Municipal Advisory Council consisted of 7 members of the community just for Joshua Tree. And Linda Camacho was one, Sandra English was one. I was part of the MAC at that time in the early 2000s. And this has to go back to 1997. And the MAC was also presented with the same problems that we're having now. No regulation of Section 6. And I just want to read a couple of paragraphs of what happened transpired in the MAC meeting of June of 1997. But it was noted by all the members of the MAC and the community, and I'm glad to see the same emphasis tonight as we were back in the 90s about protecting Section 6. They were talking about cleaning up a coyote hole. I don't know if anybody knows Iona Shillette, but she's been involved in the community for 20 years now, and she was secretary of the MAC at that time. Our chairperson at that time was a name of Janine. She was instrumental of bringing forth the problems with Section 6 as Linda Camacho was. And there was a lot of information about the BLM donating the property to CSA 20 Park and Recreations. The responsibility of that Section 6 was through the Park and Recreation. They were responsible for it, to maintaining it and make sure that everything worked well. We had an agreement with the Sheriff's Department to go out there periodically to make sure that the place wasn't being utilized for stuff that it wasn't. And at that time, we said that, we can have camping for the youth groups, like say the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, something like that, as long as they got a permit from the Park and Recreation. So in essence, we've been having this problem since the 90s, and the community is involved. I hope we continue to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. And we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.